A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a broken spirit saps a person's strength. That comes from Proverbs 17:22, the New Living Translation. It has been said that laughter is the best medicine. I recently spoke to an individual who reached out to me, and this individual was going through quite a burden. This individual had been a part of the David E. Taylor organization and was going through some stuff and going through a period of healing, I would say. And I just wanted to chat, and we spoke over the phone, and I learned a lot more about that organization, as I always do when I speak to people. And during that conversation, we laughed quite a bit. Not that the topic was funny, not that the issues are not serious, but sometimes when you just recount what you've been through, you look back at some things, you can often find the comedy in it, and so you can only laugh. I think that the next best thing to solving a problem is finding some humor in it. Now, that's not my quote. This quote is attributed to Frank A. Clark. He was a politician and he died in 1936. I think that the current atmosphere, the current situation that we're in right now, meaning myself, you who watch, the other podcasters, anyone who is invested in exposing what we're seeing happening in the church, we desperately want to get to a resolution. We desperately want to solve this issue of predatory behavior, but there is so much work to be done. And along the way, there are people that we're going to meet that share with their experiences, and people that, we can just come along, and we can also find humor in some of these circumstances. And I found that laughter with this individual that I spoke with the other day, I was laughing, this person was laughing, and it was healing to my soul, to my heart, listening to this. And I was very pleased to receive an email shortly after this conversation, and this individual said that the burden had lifted off of them. Sometimes all we can do is laugh, but we're here for a purpose. We're drawing attention to matters that need to be addressed. We're leaders who claim to be Christians should be addressing them, but they're not. And we're talking about all types of abuse in the church, all types of things. It could be immorality, it could be criminal behavior. We're talking about that, exposing that. And so my guest, who I have today, he reached out on one of my videos, and he had a comment, and then we just started talking, and he made me laugh. So we started talking, and it was clear that I wanted to bring him on this podcast. So before I do, I want to address something very quickly about a recent video I did on Tom Cassie. As you guys know, I'm getting ready to go to that trial in 2 weeks. Someone commented on my video and said that they heard that Tom got a new attorney. So, of course, I went to the docket to see if this was in fact true. That is not the case. The attorneys for both parties remain the same. The attorney for Tom is Samuel Szymanski from Columbus, Ohio. And the state's attorneys, the prosecutors, they remain the same. Jenny Wells and Darcy Cook. And they are both from the Licking County Prosecutor's Office. If Tom were to get a new attorney this late in the game, it would disrupt the jury trial that's currently scheduled for November 18th. If he did get a new attorney, that would not happen. That trial would go into next year. But that hasn't happened. I haven't seen anything about it. I'm not sure what this person was talking about, but I just wanted to address that. All right. So let me bring in my guest. His name is Nate Parrish, and I'm going to have him introduce himself. Hey, Nate, how are you?
I'm good. I am Nate Parrish. That's my name.
Good to have you. Good to have you. Nate, just briefly tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are.
Man, who am I? Well, I'm a nerd, as you can see. Have a large action figure collection.
I love it.
So it is what it is. No, I'm a dad, husband, and musician, artist. I've been a Christian since I was in high school. Um, yeah, I've played in bands. I love everything creative. And I've been in ministry for about 20 years, I guess you could say. And yeah, I think that's me.
That's great. Tell us a little bit about your bands, because I know you're in a band now,
Yep.
but you were also in the band Cutlass, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard that band before.
Yeah, that was a really funny story. So I grew up I'm a punk rocker. You know, I love anti-establishment, mohawks, and all that stuff. I had blue hair, all those things. And so when I got into my first real band, it was a worship band, and I didn't even know about worship music, but I wanted to make worship music that was for people like myself and my friends. You know, no offense to CCM, but you know, how great is our God just didn't really speak to us. So we started doing that band, and our first big tour was with Cutlass. We were on a tour with like 9 bands, and I met the guys, and I never really had listened to their music before, but they were pretty big, and I became friends with the guitar player James. And actually on YouTube there is a parody video I made about me trying to join the band. This is in 2008. It was like a parody, you know, just a joke. And then it's like 7 years later, James calls me out of the blue, which dudes don't just like call each other. You know, we send each other memes, but I thought that was weird. And he asked me if I wanted to play guitar in Cutlass. I said, yeah. I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I thought about it. I'm like, what did I just do? Because I didn't even know if I could pull it off. I had a job, but I quit my job and went back on tour and did that for 10 years.
Oh my goodness, 10 years.
10 years. It was 10 years in August.
Wow.
Yeah.
How often would you tour?
When I first joined, it was more. We did a few bus tours. We went to Ukraine in Europe for 2 months. That was the longest. That was in 2016. And that was really cool because it was such a unique experience. We would preach the gospel in every concert. And you're preaching the gospel to a group of people that haven't actually heard it. You know, in America, you just assume, and, you know, most people, oh, I know who Jesus is. He's the hippie with long hair that like loves everyone. But when you go to Ukraine, they didn't have freedom of religion. So when you're saying it, you're watching them like, huh. And it's like, it's hard to explain,
right?
Watching people hear the gospel for the first time, like so many, like thousands of people. There was thousands of people there. It was crazy. So that was a really great experience. And then, you know, the unrest, it was still a little shaky when we were there. Like cops would come to, or whatever their equivalent, came to our hotel one time because they didn't like what we were doing, and we had to hide in our hotel room and stuff.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's funny now. I didn't tell my wife when it happened.
Yeah, not funny then.
Nah. Yeah, so we did that, and then we would just do fly dates, and then the last couple of years, we haven't been playing much, and so I've just been doing my own thing. But I love my time in Cutlass, and I love those boys, and yeah, they're awesome.
Do they still have a group together? Do they still record?
They put out they put out music a few months ago. Actually, it's really great. It's very, very heavy. So, if you like the heavier version of Cutlass, you'll love it.
Like heavy rock, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I know you said that you were a pastor. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, such a funny. I don't even know how I got there. So when I was little, evidently, I used to wear suits to school. Like I'm talking like, 6 years old. They used to call me a little preacher. And I was like, what did I do? She's like, you used to carry a Bible around. You couldn't read, but you carry a Bible around and tell people, about God. I'm like, oh, okay. So then growing up, I went to a Christian school and all that stuff, but I didn't want to be a pastor. That's not a thing. It wasn't a cool thing to me. And then when I got into ministry, it was always music, and I think the first time it really clicked was we went to a church in Napa, California. My best friend was kind of stepping in there as a pastor, and he needed some help. So we moved there with him, and their college group didn't have any leadership. And I had some experience in that. So I volunteered to lead the group and try to like bring some health to it. So I had to preach every week, and my wife did worship, and that was a really great experience. And so did that, and then when I moved on to my next church, you're like, oh, you preach too, right? I'm like, sure, if you need me to. And so I started doing that, and then I became an elder this last year at my church, and that's like in that church is synonymous with pastor. So I remember when I went to preach on a Sunday morning, they're like, okay, so you got to call yourself Pastor Nate. I was like, I don't want to do that. So, okay, you can call yourself Elder Nate. Like, that's even worse. I'll just go with that. But the last few times I just pretended I forgot. I just don't like that title. There's nothing wrong with that. It feels so.
Just not for you.
Yeah. But pastor is a shepherd. That's really what you are. And so I approached it that way. But it was something I just fell into. Not really. I mean, I feel like God has a call on my life, but I tried to run from that for most of my life, and it caught me. So
caught back up with you.
Yeah.
And so did you say for about 9 years at that church?
No, I think technically when this church, the last church we were at, I was on staff as the creative director. So the pastor thing, the official title didn't come till like the last year.
Okay.
Because I was an elder. So they're like, okay, so you're a pastor now. And so, yeah.
And you and I talked about this ministry that you were involved in. It wasn't called Fearless LA, I believe, when you were involved in it, but it's in LA, correct?
Yeah, I was a part of, so the first like real church that I got involved in was in Modesto. And that's where my first band came from and all that stuff. And then eventually they planted a church in LA. And I didn't go with them. I didn't feel like it was what I was supposed to do. So yeah, and then that's where the name change and all that kind of stuff happened.
Yeah. And so you and I talked about this ministry that caught my attention when we were talking and getting to know each other, called Fearless LA. And are they a big church in LA?
I think so. It's because of social media, you never really know anything. Yeah. I've never been there. I just, I don't know. I've never been there. So I would just say, I don't know. I've never been there. I've seen pictures. Seems like it's doing well. But yeah.
So, but you have some personal experience with people that were part of it that just caught your attention with things that they were telling you.
Yeah. So what happened was back over last spring, I was preaching, and we were doing a series on mental health, and the teaching pastor was like, I want you to preach on burnout because you know a lot about that. Okay. And it's true. Like the church that I'm at we went through a church merger. There was 2020 where like literally every decision you make is wrong, no matter what it is. So, and then I had my son during that time. So it was a lot of stuff. And so he was right. I'm an expert on burning out, I guess. But so I was preaching on burnout, and as I was studying, I was thinking, so why do Christians get burned out? I don't know that it's because we're doing too much. Because there's people that do a lot of things, but they don't burn out. It's about your being connected to your source, which is God. And if you're not, obviously you're running on empty. But for me, I was running on empty. And I remember the first time I really experienced that just wore out feeling where it's like, it's deeper than being tired. You know what I mean? It's like nothing brings you joy anymore. You're just done. And it was back when I was a part of that church, because I remember the overwhelming feeling of, it was like an oppression of, I had to produce, I had to do something. I had this pressure to be a world changer. to go do something great, but that word great is not really defined.
Yeah.
It's just like, do something big and epic and change the world. Like, that's a lot of pressure for like a dude in their 20s who is poor. And like, what am I, but we're striving towards that. And you're working so hard, and you think you're working for God. And now looking back, I think God was just like, whoa, I didn't ask you to do any of that. What are you doing? And it was my way of trying to maybe get God's attention or earn his affection or whatever it was. I was just working so hard, and it was this pressure that was put on me, that I put on myself, whatever, that wasn't from God.
Yeah.
And
nice when you can identify that, right, and figure it out.
Yeah. And it takes hindsight, right? Looking back. But I remember it clicked, and in my message, I didn't plan this, but I felt like I should talk about that because, as a speaker, preacher, whatever you're doing, you want to communicate. Your job is to connect people's heart to God's heart, right? And the best way to do that is being vulnerable and honest. If nothing else, just be honest. And
Amen.
So it's a clip. It's on my Instagram. I sat down. I'm just going to sit down to eliminate that barrier between me on a stage and you in the seat. So I sat down and I just said, man, I know what that was like. I know what it's like to feel that, because I was in a spiritually oppressive environment where I felt I was told I had to be at every single event, every single thing, front row, jumping, singing, clapping, doing everything. And if I didn't, I was questioned why. And it was implied that my walk was not healthy if I wasn't involved in every single thing, if I wasn't at the front of every single thing. And I remember it killed me spiritually. People really, they like to dunk on deconstructors. Oh, they're just, whatever. No, I think that happens because you burnt them out.
And putting burdens on them that that God never even intended.
No, I don't think people wake up one day and they go, you know what? I don't think God's real. I think it's a progression of they're put in this like religious system where they're trying to work, and it doesn't work. It's not what, literally, Jesus died, the curtain was torn, that separation is supposed to be gone, and we've been sewing it back together ever since with programs. And we have pyramid scheme Christianity where there's one dude at the top and everyone thinks they're going to get to the top, but guess what? You never get to the top because it's designed so you can't. And that is what kills people spiritually. And thank God I had my wife, and I had spiritually mature people around me that I could talk to about it. But a lot of people don't have that, and they just walk away. And so I put that in the message, and a clip of it was shared. And I thought, well, it's not that controversial. I didn't name names. It was just like, hey, this is what happened to me. And God, Jesus died for you. He didn't die for programs. Pretty mellow take, in my opinion. It's like it
could have been stronger.
Evidently it wasn't. And I got, for the next 2 weeks, I got messages every single day from multiple people that were either saying, thank you for saying that. I would say like 90% said, I thought I was alone. I thought I was crazy. I was cast out of the church. People were told not to talk to me because I asked questions, because I pushed back on this. I got messages like that every day for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Heavy stuff. Like, man, because either people remembered me or they just knew me through whatever, and they said, thank you for saying that. I'm not a Christian anymore. I don't go to church. I can't. I feel sick if I try to go to church. But thank you for saying that. And then on the flip side, I would get messages, not messages to me. It would be like a passive aggressive. Like one guy took my clip and like put words over it and was like, this is the problem with Christians today. They're weak. They don't,
You're a disruptor. You're divisive.
I'm divisive. Yeah. I'm that's a big one. I'm always rebellious or divisive, but
right.
So that opened a can of worms, evidently, and didn't think it was that big of a deal, but it was heavy. I remember it's kind of embarrassing, but I remember crying in the shower because I was like, "Why am I so sad?" And it
Yeah.
was like, because I'm feeling the weight of these people who some of them I knew when they were youth kids,
Wow.
and all they needed was a person to say publicly, "Hey, that was weird, that was wrong." That's all they needed because they thought they were crazy,
Right.
and that it's crazy. How often I heard that comment. I thought I was alone. I thought I was crazy.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because that is exactly what we're seeing right now in just this realm of, if you've been watching any podcasters or social media, that's what I've seen in the last year, when I had an awakening, but 2 years ago with the IHOP KC
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But I love how God does it. He catches us at varying times, and it's like, okay, you've got my attention, but what do you want me to do? And so, did you do something when you realized that and you felt that burden?
Yeah. So, man, there's a lot to unpack. I've been unpacking stuff for decade, but sometimes in these systems, you are programmed that they really, really like talk against gossip, and the definition of gossip is like changed. So it's anything that you say about a person ever.
Period.
If it's true, still gossip. And then it will be like, well, you should have Matthew 18. You should have came to me. It's like, well, you can go into Matthew 18 and how it's misused, but like the reality is, if someone shares their true experience, it's not gossip.
Right.
It's literally the truth.
Right.
And so going to a pastor is not always an option. I mean, honestly, with big churches, it isn't. Like, if you have a problem with Mike Bickle and you're in his church, are you going to go, well, I'll go set up a meeting with? No, you have to go through all these avenues. Some executive pastor is going to cut you off, be like, you got to meet with me. You don't actually
100%.
You don't
That's
go to
right.
these people, right? I'm not going to go to Joel Osteen and be like, well, I disagree with your teaching. It's not going to, you have to pay probably to see him. So that's not a thing, but they say that because they know you can't actually do that. So then when you do talk about it, it's gossip. So you're programmed. So I had to really like talk to a lot of people about, if I'm sharing my story that literally happened, is this wrong? They're like, no. Why do you think that? Because I've been programmed that it's divisive, it's rebellious, it's literally witchcraft. They say
They love to say that.
It's witchcraft. And so how do people even exist then if you can't literally talk to anyone about anything ever? And so for me, I got all these stories. And so I would ask the people, hey, are you okay if I share this? And most of them said yes, or I would have to black out certain things, names or whatever. And I thought, you know what, I don't have a big platform, but I do have some influence. I'm going to share these stories, these people's real stories. Some of them I remember, and a lot of them I wasn't there, but I can you can what's the word?
Give a voice to them.
Yeah. I knew enough to know that this is a true story. So share their story, and I just posted on my Instagram. That's all I did. Just share their story, and then I just put a caption of, you're not crazy, you're not alone. And that, you would think is like, wow, that's a good thing. But man, the response from, yeah, not in a really, not in a crazy way, but it was, there's a lot of, oh, you're speaking against God's anointed. Don't touch God's anointed. That old thing that's taken out of context and misused. You're being divisive. You're making the church look bad. All those things. But I really felt like it was the right thing to do, because these people have no voice. They've spent, better part of 10 years, some of them, being afraid of a pastor. Think about this. They're afraid of a pastor.
Listen to that. Let that sink in. They are afraid of a pastor. And we're speaking to people out here that are probably watching right now. You might be afraid of a pastor and you might not realize it.
Yeah.
And I pray that the bondage is just released off of you, because that is what we're seeing. You know, you talk about, okay, just get into your Bible. Okay, that's one step. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't know your Bible, you're not going to know if what's coming from your pastor or these elders or whatever these leaders are that claim to be Christian. Mm-hmm. That's one aspect. But you also have to do something about that. Mm-hmm. Fueling and feeding the beast, feeding that monster with your tithes, with that constant seed so that you get this, that's got to stop too.
Yeah.
Stop bringing your family in, because what you're doing is you're bringing in your family and you're leading them to the slaughter to be abused.
Yeah. And I know, like, one of the big, so there's like a list of rebuttals that these people have. And it's, oh, you're hurt. You're just hurt. And then I realized, yes, people are hurt. So you're just saying that because you're hurt. It's like, well, yeah, these people are hurt.
And we have a legitimate reason to have been hurt. And we're trying to stop the hurt. We're trying to
when did that become not a valid thing? It's like, well, you're just hurt. It's like, yes, yes, this person's hurt. That's why they're sharing their story. The question we should be asking is, why are they hurt? And as a pastor, I've had to do this with some of these people from that church. I had to message them because I'm like, I was in leadership and I'm like, man, did I do something being in leadership? And when you're in it, you don't realize how crazy the things you're doing are, never a thought of like, maybe you should ask them why they're hurt. Maybe, I don't know, take some responsibility, perhaps. I remember I asked a girl, I was like, she shared her story. I was like, man, I remember you. That was crazy. And she's like, yeah, you remember you shot me with a paintball gun? I'm like, what? No, I didn't. She's like, yeah. She's like, I'm not mad about it. I'm like, what? When did I shoot you with a paintball gun? She's like, well, we did this leadership boot camp. We used to take these kids, teenagers, young adults, to do a boot camp, like for leadership. It's like I don't know what you'd call it. It's crazy to think back now. But one of the things we did, and I remember, was the pastor got in the middle of this field and all the potential leaders, some of them in high school, had to surround him while the older leaders like myself were shooting at him with a paintball gun, and they had to get in the way to be his armor bearer.
Oh, that sounds crazy.
And so, right. But at the time, it's like, yeah, we got to train them up because, Satan shoots arrows at people. We got to protect our leader. And then now looking back, I'm like, wait a second. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Did I actually hit you? She's like, yeah, but it's fine. Like, it's not though. That's crazy but at the time you're doing what you're told to do. And, but if I tell a normal person like you, hey, how we trained up our student leaders is we shot them with paintball guns. Your response, which is the normal human response, is that's crazy. But when you're in those systems, that's just how that's how we mentor these kids. We shoot them. So I had to, go and ask people, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Did I do, and lucky there wasn't a lot of that, but it's crazy. Yeah.
But Nate, your response with you just realizing that and saying, I'm so sorry. No, that's not okay.
Yeah.
That's the biblical, that's the normal response. And I don't know if you know who this person is, but I didn't even know this story. Do you know who Art Lucier is in Canada?
I only know him because of you. I think you were covering it. And then
Laura Lynn.
Yeah, I always get her name wrong because she's got four
Laura
names.
Lynn.
Yeah, Laura Lynn. I watched her thing on him because I thought, well, I gotta, I'm as a person, person involved in church and just a Christian, I'm interested in these things. Like, I want to know what's going on in the big capital C church. And so I watched her video on him, and so I am familiar, and I saw the thing. We bring it up. Didn't they do something similar with like?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was shooting them, two young men, young boys, teens, with a paintball gun on their back, saying that they have to suffer for Christ or something like that.
Yeah, I saw that.
And took a video of it, and then he, tries to minimize and downplay it. Oh, certainly not the response that you had. Entirely not the response that you had. Oh no, he's going to defend it, saying it was them. Let's blame the victims. Like, children know what they're doing here.
Yeah. Oh, I think I'm frozen. Look at my face.
No, you're not.
I'm not. Oh, it's okay. Well,
it might be on your end, but it's
okay,
not on
cool.
mine.
Perfect. Good. Yeah. No, that is. I just think we've all made mistakes. Like, if you're part of a church or a ministry for like longer than I don't know, an hour, you're going to make a mistake. You're going to hurt someone's feelings because you're working with people, and a lot of people. And if as a pastor, you're essentially saying, hey, follow me, I know the way. And we get lost still, like we mess up. But I think your response, if you mess up, should just be, I'm sorry, let me look into this and see, tell me what I did. I want to hear it. But for some reason, modern pastors, we don't do that. We don't do that at all. We're like, no, it must be you. You're just hurt. And that's such a weird response. Like, how did we get here to where the shepherd, the person that's supposed to emulate Jesus, is like, yeah, it's your fault. It's crazy.
It is. It's absolutely crazy. And sometimes you have to laugh at it because we have to get through this process.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to keep trucking and going through this, and we're not going to let them off. They don't want to take responsibility. They want to point the finger at the victims. That's on them. And that should be a clear indication for people that are watching this happen in real time. Can't you see who is the one that's acting unbiblically? I mean, to me, it's apparent, but, maybe not to some.
Well, I'll tell you this, and I'm sure everyone knows this. One of the hardest things to do in life is say, I'm sorry. It's for some, it's harder than others, but that is the most, because it's a pride killer. Pride will tell you you're not wrong. You're never wrong. And you can find a way to make it other people's fault. But if you say, if repenting, we hear about that in the Bible, repentance is a very, very difficult thing for humans to do. For me specifically, saying sorry is probably one of the hardest things for me to do. Yeah. Because it's pride. But when you're a pastor, when you're a leader, it's probably the number one thing you should do.
Wow.
Because you're the lead repenter, right?
Wow, that's good.
But somehow we've gotten this theology now of, I'm the leader, which means don't question me, follow me. And if you do, you're a problem. We'll find a way to get rid of you.
Yeah. That's what they do. You're the troublemakers. You're the ones stirring up stuff in my church. Get out.
Yeah.
So I went, after you and I spoke, when I was getting ready for this, I went on to Yelp to look at the reviews of this Fearless LA church. I'm not going to read all of them. That would be boring, but there's a couple of them. And I just want to, talk to you about that,
okay.
Just bring up some of these Yelp things. So there was a Yelp comment. I'm not going to say who it is, but it was from April 17, 2025. So not too long ago, 10 months ago. Says, I would strongly advise against attending this church, especially if you're considering bringing your youth or vulnerable individuals into their environment. They said that back in 2017, this person witnessed concerning incidents, one where they invited an internet personality named Woa Vicky. I've never heard of that person. I looked this person up, and I think she's an actress, but in any event, it says during the school lunch event, it was confusing and frankly irresponsible, considering she's not a positive role model for young people. The situation escalated into a physical fight, putting several students in harm's way, all kinds of chaos and reckless, saying, just lack of supervision and sensitivity. And then talked about another instance where a child got hurt. And then they said perhaps the most insidious issue was how the church involved youth in adult matters and conversations and drama that were far beyond what any child or teenager should be exposed to. They didn't talk about it, but my goodness, that's troubling. And we see that where these churches just don't really exercise good judgment in how they're dealing with issues with youth, with teens, with children's ministry, even how they pastor a church. But did you take a look at any of these Yelp comments?
I've seen them. Yeah, I've seen a lot actually. I became aware, I became aware of some of the stuff like the Yelp reviews and like there's an Instagram account where people share their stories. I was made aware of that a few years ago. And so obviously I was interested to hear that because I was there years ago. And some people that I knew were there. And I read a lot of the stories. I saw a lot of Yelp reviews. I noticed a lot of Yelp reviews get removed too. So I remember seeing one. I was like, oh, I'm going to screenshot this just in case because I had a feeling. And then sure enough, they disappear. And so, yeah, that one in particular, like, I don't know any of that stuff. I haven't been affiliated with them since 2011. But
before they were fearless, right? Before they.
Yeah, for sure. But
do you know anybody that went there?
What's that?
Do you know anyone who was a part of that church?
Yep, for sure. I do. Most of them have left, and I've heard their stories. I've heard stories. Here's the thing, man, is where it gets. The stories I've heard from people I know are pretty concerning. The Yelp reviews, anyone could write anything, so whatever. Not that I'm doubting this person, but I think at some point, if there's a bunch of reviews and then there's an Instagram page and then there's all this stuff, at some point you might think, well, if there's smoke, there's fire, maybe, and so don't talk to anyone there. Haven't for a long time, but I was pretty. Yeah, it's concerning what I've seen. Yeah.
Let me tell you one of these reviews, and they were talking about, this one was interesting. So this one was from 2023. If you are familiar with the Hillsong NYC, New York City story, then you will find similar styles of worship here. It is very much an entertainment church. Talked about it being had a charismatic Joel Osteen vibe. Seemed very focused on miracles as well as the deceptive health, wealth, and prosperity gospel. And former members referred to the cultish environment, but it seemed more shallow than that and based more on emotions, money, style, and show business. Very interesting. Another one said, this is from 2023, the church is more like a super fun, lively pool party with dope music, captivating aesthetics, attractive people, and great food. A party that shouts about the pool party being for Jesus, only for you to stay at the pool party long enough to realize Jesus is not there.
Oh, jeez. That's brutal. Yeah, I like I said, I haven't been there. I could see, man, this is like an American church problem. So I've been a part of a church, and I understand the desire to present an attractive message. So you dress it up with lights and music and all those things. And I don't even think like lights and music are obviously bad. I just think it's about your intention and the realization that, man, the gospel is pretty offensive at its core. It's actually a pretty offensive message, an attractive one, but it is offensive. And if you cut corners and water down and dress it up, you're sort of tricking people. It's like a bait and switch.
Yeah.
And there's that old saying, whatever you win them with is what you have to keep them with. So if you win them with entertainment, that's what you have to do to keep them there. So that it is a balance. It is a tension of how do I make the gospel message, how do I take the roadblocks out of the way and present it in a way that's still true, but um, it is what's the word? It's not culturally relevant, but there's a tact to it. There is a way to present things where um, there's no you take those barriers out of the way. And
Right.
sometimes music is part of that. Whatever. Oh, I really like the music. Let me hear the message. Whatever. But you have to know at its core, the gospel message has to remain the same, and you can't get lost in all that stuff. So I've definitely experienced that in church. I've experienced that in my own church where we would do stuff and I'm like, maybe we should dial that back a little bit. I like it because I'm a music creative guy. Like, of course, let's be creative, but at the same time, let's not forget what the actual point is. And at the end of the day, you actually don't need all those things. You just need a Bible and a voice. But
That's true. That's so true. And it leads me to this is something that I've thought about too. When you see these churches that, just like you were talking about, they're dressing it up, they're trying to get people in, the coffee, the donuts, the pizza, the
mm-hmm.
whatever, the seeker sensitive, which is so rampant, like where I live. I mean, it's all seeker sensitive churches. And, you see these videos where they, I don't know if you saw these, like they hire like there was a men's conference, I think a year or two ago, where they hired like some pole dancer or whatever. Did you
I
see
saw
that?
that.
And then
Mm-hmm.
like one where they created or built like a roller coaster. And I mean, how many tens of thousands did that cost? Could you not have used that
Yeah.
money to help people pay their light bill for that month that are in
Yeah.
your church? That would have been a blessing to them. But no, you wanted to buy a roller coaster.
Yeah, it gets to a point where you're like, dude, that was okay, cool, creative, really cringy. And I don't think people don't actually think that's cool. I think like out of context, if you're not in the building and because I saw a clip of the roller coaster thing, and I was like, I had so much cringe.
Yes.
I almost stopped existing. Like it almost made me cringe out of the universe because I'm like, dude, what the heck? What are you doing? And true, that those things are expensive to rent. You could,
Right.
I mean, imagine in a parallel universe where they took that, let's say it's $10,000, and they said there's a single mom, and of course I'm just making a scenario, but you pay her rent for a year or whatever. Like that's freaking awesome, and that's kind of what we should be doing.
Right.
But and trying to get in the mind of the leadership that thought it would be cooler to have a mini roller coaster. Maybe they thought, oh, this will go viral. It'll bring more attention to the church, thus bring more attention to the gospel message. I'm pretty sure they were doing that. I don't think there was a motive of like, we're going to just throw money in the toilet and put a roller coaster on stage because we're evil. I think maybe that's the thought process. But if you're removed from that, like me watching on a screen, I'm like, dude.
Let's rethink this perhaps.
Yeah, maybe we've gone
a little, outside the box in a bad way, because it could be outside the box in a good creative way.
Yeah, of course.
But I mean, if you are in the business of being a blessing, you're a church. What are you supposed to be doing? You're preaching, you're helping people. And part of that, just like in the Bible, it says, if somebody comes to you and says, I've got no food, I'm cold, and be blessed, have a good day.
Yeah.
You're not blessing them. You're not advancing the gospel.
Yeah. Yeah. The church, as in the people, that is our job, to be a light in a dark world. And that mostly involves doing things that are sacrificial, giving, helping out people, feeding the poor, things like that. And I think churches, they do that. Obviously they do that. But I really feel like there is a pendulum swing to where we're going back and people are done with the roller coasters and they're done with the pole dancers. That I even have to say that, it's crazy.
I know. Isn't it?
But I think we're done with that. I think you're getting a lot of just new baby Christians, so to speak, that are like, hey, I could get all that stuff. I could go to the movies. and they do it better. I can go to Disneyland. Obviously, their roller coasters are way better than this mini coaster. What I can't get is the gospel in a Christ-centered community. That's what I'm here for. So
Right.
maybe we go back to that.
Right. I'm glad you said that, because in my thought process this week, I was thinking about the desire, it seems like, of some to be entertained. They go to the
Yeah.
church and they just really want to be entertained. And you see that, especially in the ones where, hey, revival this weekend, and it's just a show. And
Yeah.
it's people, screaming and being slain in the spirit, and they're there for the show.
Yeah.
Yet, to me, perhaps some of these same people would, talk bad about, you and I, a Christian, going to perhaps a Broadway play because we're
Mm-hmm.
watching a show. Well, I think you're doing the same thing. If you're doing the same thing, you're just going to church thinking that it's okay. But you're going to a church, you're going there to be entertained.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps the Bible's not being preached there.
Yeah, if your motivation is to go and be entertained, okay, that's cool. You're missing the point. I'm missing the point, and we can all fall into that. I've been guilty of saying, "Oh, the preacher didn't really speak to me." Well, he was literally speaking to me if I would have been paying attention, but he wasn't engaging or funny. So I'm like, I don't get anything out of that. And I think that's just, we've been like heading downhill. Our attention spans are so small. We're so used to entertainment, and the church is we've done that to ourselves, where we're like, summer at the movies, and we're exegeting, Top Gun, and it's just the lamest thing in the world. But our attempt to reach people is actually pushing them farther away. I mean, they're in the building, but they're not growing.
They're not engaging. They're not.
Yeah. And it's hard to go backwards. Like, once you go that far, it's hard to just go back and be like, everyone open up your Bible. I'm going to read these 42 verses, and I'm going to tell you what they say in the Greek. And then we're going to, that's what we're supposed to do. But we've been conditioned to be like, oh no, this is boring. Like, yeah,
Right.
but this is what it is.
Right.
The Christian life is one of service. Service is usually not like the most exciting thing in the world. I'd rather look at a mini roller coaster.
Right. It's kind of like you have to deprogram.
You do. Yeah.
And get back to basics.
Yeah.
Really back to basics. Let me just read another one, because this is a common theme that's not just in that church. Okay. So this person wrote the Yelp in 2019. It says, I gave this church multiple chances and I wanted to like it. It feels like a cult where everyone is praising the preacher on stage rather than God's word. I can't even hear what he's preaching without constantly hearing, yes, come on, preach, every few seconds. I don't know about you. That actually aggravates me when I go to a service and there's that going on. So I totally resonate.
Well, as a preacher, it always is a little encouraging when you get feedback. I mean, I will say that, like, if I'm preaching and everyone is like quiet, I don't know if you're hearing me. Like, you want some feedback is good, but I will say, I have been a part of a church that it was encouraged and it required for leadership to shout down the pastor. So you are told, make sure you're vocal, make sure you're, encouraging the pastor and saying yes and amen or whatever. And what happens is, this is really funny, and you'll watch some sermons and you'll see this. The pastor will say something that's like totally not profound. He'll be like, and then I had this bowl of soup, and people are like, come on. You're like, he's just talking about soup. Why are you amening that? And because they're programmed that if the pastor raises his voice and then leaves a gap, like an applause section,
yes,
you bark. So,
yep.
And I was just sitting around this bowl of soup. Come on, pastor. Like, dude. And once you hear it, you can't unhear it. And I've seen a lot of messages where that happens. And it's just weird. I mean, come on, dude. Let's save the amens for stuff that like is good.
Right. It's just so funny. Let me see. Oh, two. Let me just do this last one. This one's not funny. All right. So this one, 2018, they said, I personally know at least 20 people who have been destroyed by them, referring to Jeremy and Christy, the pastors there. And many of them are in, did I get the names right? Is that who they are?
Yeah.
Okay. They're in counseling for it. I have seen people shunned from church called a Jezebel by Pastor Jeremy himself. People told that God didn't speak to them because it didn't benefit the church, and saw people that were told that their molestation was their fault.
Mm. The last part I can't speak to, obviously. But yeah, that I've seen the messages personally. I like when I told you about, the interesting thing is I have spoken out about, it's my story, right? No one can take that from me.
That's right.
Try to shame me about it, whatever, but it's my story, and I am still here. And that's what I think I want people to know, like, I've been through stuff. I'm sure you've been through stuff, church hurt, all these things, but I am still here, still a part of the church, still serving. So
And
this
you
isn't,
still love Jesus.
I still do. And it's not coming from a disgruntled ex-employee kind of a thing. Like the reason I say anything, the reason I'm talking to you is because I believe in this thing called the church. I believe in Jesus, and I want to see it healthy. And I don't want to see people continuously being hurt and walking away. And so with that specific Yelp review, the last part is horrific. I don't know about that, but the other stuff, I've seen the messages. I've gotten the messages. I've gotten messages from people from that church that have told me, I've been in counseling, I can't go to church. They lost their whole friend group because when they spoke out, they were ostracized, and then people were told not to talk to them, including their friends. People have been told not to talk to me.
Right. I see that often.
You see it often, and maybe, oh, well, this person's toxic and I'm telling you this for your own good. But at the end of the day, I think I'll say we pastors, we overstep our boundaries and what we think our responsibilities are. We think that we're supposed to like lord over people's lives, like, hey, I'm your pastor, so every decision you make, I get a say in that. I get a say in who you marry. I get a say in who you talk to, who you're friends with. I don't. I get to counsel you what the Bible says, and then you make your decision. You and God, you make those decisions. I am not, God. It sucks that I have to say that, but we're not God. And we are supposed to point you to what God said and be an ear to listen. And hopefully God gives us enough wisdom to be able to help you and go in the right direction. But I don't get to decide who your friends are. And for me specifically, I remember being a young man, and there was a pastor on staff that was, I don't know if he quit or he was let go, whatever it was, he was not on staff anymore. I was told I am not allowed to talk to him. And he still is a person that I talk to, that I go to. He is a pastor to me, even though he doesn't pastor at a church. He still has a pastor's heart. Dear friend, was told I'm not allowed to talk to him. I said, no, I am going to talk to him.
Right.
But there was another time where I was told not to talk to a friend of mine, and I didn't talk to her anymore. And I regret that. And it was mostly not because I agreed, because I didn't want to rock the boat, because I knew that if I disobeyed too much, they would take away the thing I love, which was the music. I get kicked out of leadership. I get kicked out of the band. Yeah. So I have to make compromises and do some things like not talk to this friend anymore because she's rebellious, whatever it was. I regret that. I am happy that I stood my ground with my other friend, and we still talk. But that's crazy.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but I love to say it. That's cult mentality
Yes.
101. That is like one of the major first things that you will see cults do is people who leave, they demonize and then they ostracize them
Yes.
because they probably know something that they shouldn't. And they have to protect the current members. Don't talk to that person. You know, they're bad.
Right.
And in my experience, those are the people you probably should talk to.
Yeah.
because
I would say so.
Because, you know, if you're really secure and you're like, you know, I'm secure in what I'm doing, I feel confident about this, I'm doing the right thing, you're not really scared of people talking to other people.
That's right. No, I 100% agree with that. So I wanted to do this for like an hour. You know, we're getting close to that. I wanted to touch on two things. I don't want to take too much of your day today.
Sure.
You had told me that your band was on Daystar at one time.
Yeah, we were.
Tell us about that.
Oh, it was good times. Yeah, we were on Daystar. We did they had some program for like young new bands or whatever. And I don't remember.
What year was this? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think it was like 2009 or 10, maybe.
Oh, okay.
It was a really interesting season because at that time, our record label had dropped us. And so I was essentially jobless. And then I was a newlywed and we were looking for a house. So we were living with our parents. So we were, you know, we didn't have our own place. It was this weird juxtaposition of all that was like not great, but I was on TV and my wife was watching me on TV from like California. And it seems like this really, wow, they're really doing it. But really, it was like the lowest point of my life, you know? So anyways, I don't remember much about going out. I remember I had to wear a lot of makeup. So that was fun. And we played a song. We did an interview that they didn't air. I wish they would have.
Who interviewed you? Do you remember?
It was one of the daughters, I think. I think it was one of the Lambs. I can't remember. Yeah, it was a whirlwind. But yeah, we were on Daystar. We played, did an interview. It wasn't much besides that, honestly. It was, okay, see you later. Yeah.
Did you meet Joni Lamb? Do you recall?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. But it was really interesting because, you know, obviously, was it last year, the whole thing with.
Yes, exactly a year ago.
And I remember I was like, oh, I was totally on that show. And it was weird. But yeah, anyways, yeah. So it's kind of funny that I was on TBN once too. That was
What did
weird.
you do on there?
So they came and filmed at my church. We did like worship and then the pastor spoke and they filmed it like on location and then aired it on TBN. And it's funny because I have never been a fan of Christian television. It always is really gaudy and really over the top. It feels really disingenuous to me.
Yeah.
So I couldn't do much. So I silently protested. If you look, there's screenshots where I was sitting in the back like this. It just looked like I'm just miserable. And that to me was like my little protest of like, I'm going to do this, but I'm still punk and I don't like this. But yeah, that's funny.
Wow. Well, the last thing I wanted to talk about was David Taylor, because that when you reached out to me, I think it was one of those videos, and there was some things that well, first off, you have a YouTube channel and you did some creative videos where you were exposing David Taylor like years ago, right?
Yeah. So I found him in 2020 because of the deposition. If you've not seen the deposition, it is the greatest 4 hours of video that exists. It is so funny.
It is.
The way he tries to justify spending thousands of dollars on belts and suits. It's
from
hilarious.
Louis Vuitton.
Oh, love it. Love it. So I
because
started
he sweats through all his suits.
Listen, if you're sweating through a suit, bro, like don't wear a suit. You know, I can't imagine sweating through a suit. But anyways,
but you can bring it to this place called a dry cleaner.
Yeah, I know. No, you got to throw it in the trash and get another one. So I started paying attention, and then I started watching some of his clips and his sermons, and I thought this guy is crazy. The stuff he's saying from stage is unbelievable. He's Jesus's best friend. That's blasphemous. The way he treats his staff was insane to me. Yelling at them, full on yelling at them.
Oh yeah.
Asking God, Lord, send me new staff because they don't get it. Like, what the heck? And then it was funny to me.
During the preaching.
saying all kinds of derogatory, just all kinds of stuff. It was funny to me, and then it became not funny because I realized that an old friend of mine, someone I knew, we weren't close, but she was involved and still is to this day, like today.
Oh, she's still in it?
Yeah. And I was like, oh man. And then I thought, man, I remember what it was like, not to that extent, of course, but like being in an environment where you're just kind of like, you're oppressed. Like these people are oppressed. They're not held there captive by walls, but they are held captive. And I remember feeling empathy for them. And so there's a few of the members that I would reach out to that were musicians. I used kind of like the music thing as a bridge. I was talking to them, and just trying to like establish rapport of like, man, maybe I could say something, maybe put a pebble in their shoe that would get them to think like this. I don't, it's just sad seeing people suffer
Right.
like that. And so, one of the ones I talked to you about, there is a story and there's a clip of David talking about how he was asked to mentor Halle Berry and Angelina Jolie, but they calls her. And I was asked to mentor Angelina Jolie, and I just, dude,
Yeah.
it's the most unbelievable thing, right? And so I thought,
told me that, I was dying.
Dude, this is, and he said he dated Jennifer Aniston.
I lost it.
Bro, come on. So that is 100% false. Everybody knows it. So I thought, well, this will be a way, because he can't refute this. So I messaged the member and said, hey man, I saw a clip of David. He dated Jennifer Aniston. That is so cool. Did you get to meet her? Just being whatever. And he switched. It went from like, oh yeah, man, music. It was, you're mocking David. You know what? And then he's like, I looked at your page. You're in this band. You have such a big platform, and I would hate for you to get to heaven one day and you have to face God and he's going to ask you what you did with your platform, and you're choosing your platform to speak lies about the man of God. And I was like, I just asked if you met his girlfriend, Jennifer Aniston. That's all I wanted to know, because I'd want to meet her. She was in Friends. I love Friends. But he got so mad, he blew me up, then he blocked me, and then the manager the Cutlass manager messaged me. She's like, do you know this person? And she sent me the screenshot. He messaged the Cutlass Instagram saying, your guitar player, Nate Parrish, is a liar, and he's trying to do all these things. And she's like, okay. And I had to explain to her, I'm like, I'm sorry, it's just, and she's like, no, I just thought it was funny. I just wanted to know if you knew this person. And so he tried to get me kicked out of the band, basically.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Yeah.
That's what they do. Go against their, and they really have superimposed David Taylor for Jesus Christ.
Yes.
I don't know if I've told you this, because I talk to so many people. Most people I talk to, they're not on my channel, like this, but I saw some comments on a video. It wasn't mine. I don't know whose it was, but the person was serious. He said that he no longer prays to Jesus Christ. He prays to David E. Taylor. Did I tell you that?
I heard you say that. Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that scary?
Yes. Yeah. It's crazy. It's wild that he is literally in jail, federal charges.
Yes.
Several.
Yes. And
still, like, I checked in with my old, friend person that I knew that's there, and still was like, the enemy will not prevail. David is going to conquer this, false accusations. So you realize there's actually, it has to be God that changes these people, because he's sitting in a prison and it's not enough.
Right.
It's not enough. And so you mentioned my channel. I'm a musician, and I wanted to use humor, because humor does break down a lot of walls. Like, you see the ridiculousness in some of these teachings and some of these guys, like, that does wake some people up. So I took some of his clips that were just insane. It's not like I add words. Like, this is stuff that he's said, and I put like metal music to it and made these videos and stuff in an attempt to like use humor to like show the ridiculousness of this guy. Like, wake up. And he's an extreme case. I think most people would look at what he says and be like, okay, that guy's crazy.
Right. And it was very creative. Your videos, I'll link it. I'll link your channel.
Yeah, it's fun, but like it's me genuinely trying to shake people, because David is crazy, and I think most people agree with that, but he's not too far off from a lot of other religious leaders. He's just more brazen.
Yeah.
But the teachings and a lot of the way he rules over these people with an iron fist is not that far off from other pastors and stuff that I've seen and experienced and heard about. It's not that far off.
And that's the problem, you know, the issue, so to speak. Sorry, my voice is going.
Oh yeah.
But that's the issue, and we're seeing that across the board with these leaders that claim to be Christians. It's the common theme. And yeah, that's where we're at. And if we didn't intervene, so to speak, now, then when? You know, I was talking to somebody else that I'm going to be interviewing pretty soon, and he said something really interesting. He said, you know, back in the 90s, we didn't have social media like we do today. Mm-hmm. And perhaps, like we were talking in the context of Mike Bickle with IHOP KC. He said, perhaps if we did have social media back then, it would have saved some of the victims, because then you have 3 generations or 3 decades, not generation, but 3 decades of people that are being abused because it wasn't disclosed. And now we have social media. And what do you hear from the pulpit? I don't know if you hear this, but I do. Get off social media. As soon as you see this scandal being exposed, the first thing they tell you, get off social media. All the while, they're on it.
Yes.
Right? Michael Brown, he's got his own channel. Jeremiah Johnson, they've all got their own channels. They're using it, but they're going to tell you not to. It's laughable.
Yeah. I've heard that a lot, obviously. But that goes back to, that's just another way of ostracizing people. Don't talk to these people. Don't listen to these podcasts. And I don't think a podcast is a replacement for, being a part of a church at all, but they are so valuable. Podcasts, really, honestly, when I left my church back years ago and kind of deconstructed in my own way, ironically, was a catalyst for that was Mark Driscoll's podcast.
Really?
Yeah, and because what he was teaching was he was going through the book of Luke, right? Just teaching the book of Luke. And I remember listening to him and he was just teaching it. And he's got, there's issues there. He's got issues. But as a teacher, especially back in, 2010, 11, that dude he just taught through the Bible. And I remember thinking, this is sad. I've never heard this.
Wow.
I've never heard the Bible explained this way. I've never heard them go through more than like 2 verses in the same, scripture. It's usually a verse here, a verse there, and they formulate like whatever their topic they want to talk about. But he was just preaching through the Bible, and that was such a huge deal for me. And that was a podcast. So these things, it's there's a guy named Tim Ross that he has a podcast, and I listened to him, and he was saying, he felt like God wanted him to step away from pastoral ministry to start a podcast. And he was ruthlessly mocked by other pastors, oh, you're a podcast, and, basically looking down on it. But the way he explained it, he's like, we're supposed to preach to the highways and the byways, right? I preach to the highways. This is the byways. Like I've done the big, and these are the little, we're reaching people that they don't go to church. A lot of them don't go to church because of, they've told me why they don't go.
Right.
And so they listen to a podcast, and God can speak through a podcaster just as much as he can speak through a pastor. It shouldn't be discounted. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's all about balance. And I think what you're doing is important. Like I listen to the Wake Up and Win podcast. I don't know if you know those guys, Blaze. And I listen to that stuff because a lot of it is cathartic for me, if I'm being honest. It's cathartic to hear someone else express these ideas and thoughts and experiences that I've had where I thought I was alone and I wasn't allowed to talk about it. I
Right.
talked about this once, Vanessa, in 2015. I was on a podcast with a guy who was a mega church pastor that stepped down
Uh-huh.
because he saw the corruption, and he just started working as a bartender and like talking about Jesus with people.
Nice.
And so I went on his podcast and I told the story about my experience, the tithing story that I talked to you about. And I got a barrage of text messages, like frantic, telling me I was destroying the church. All the words. I'm rebellious. How dare I?
Because you went on his podcast.
And I told my story.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, this guy is now, he's walked away from God. He's a functional atheist, still a sweet guy, still a friend of mine. The pastor blew me up, basically, threatened me with scripture. But the atheist, when I told him, I was like, man, I don't know what to do. I was like crying because this was my, spiritual big brother, like basically telling me I'm a horrible person for sharing my story. And the atheist said, well, let me pray for you. And he prayed for me on the phone. But the pastor told me I was a Jezebel. And that's a perfect encapsulation of, you'll know them by their fruits. And the fruit of the Spirit is not a large church. The fruits of the Spirit is not domineering leadership. It's the other things. It's kindness. It's all these little things that you'll see. The greatest man of God I ever knew was my father-in-law. Not a pastor, was never on stage. Memorized the book of John, which I don't know how he did that. I look at him and I think, no one's given this guy a microphone, but he displays every single fruit.
Biblically. Yeah.
That's where. How did we get here?
Yeah.
How did we get here where our leaders are these domineering, abusive, manipulative people?
Yeah.
I don't know how we got here.
Yeah. So much we could say, but I'm not going to take any more of your time. And I think that that's a great place to end. Nate, thank you so much. You're
Absolutely.
such a blessing. I'm so glad that I have gotten to know you, and I'm going to put you backstage. I'm going to close this out. Just wait there for a minute. You can hear what I'm saying, but I just definitely want to talk just to close it out. So let me just remove you. All right. So you guys, that was such a blessing to me. I hope that this was a blessing to you. I have other interviews that I'm working on. People have been reaching out. It's been a very, very crazy, busy week. And I just pray that with each of these interviews that I do, that it's a blessing to people, anyone, even just one. If you're unburdened by it, just released by it. The things that Nate shared, I mean, just common themes. What really got me was that the people saying to him, coming out of these churches, I thought that I was alone, but I heard you speak. That's why we're speaking. People have said that on mine. I thought I was alone. I thought I was crazy. My pastor made me think this about myself. That's not a biblical, godly pastor. Told me not to talk about what they went through. Particularly, Nate didn't have that particular experience, but we're seeing it all the time where unfortunately, people are getting abused in the church. And if it's a crime, they're going to the church to tell them what they did, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Please go to the police if there's been a crime committed. The church, they're going to cover up and protect the person. That's what we've seen. If they don't, I would be just astonished, but obviously blessed by it, but I haven't seen it. But I hope that those things start happening now where people are going to the police and they're doing it quickly. Do not be afraid. Do not even for 1 second buy into the shame that they want you to buy into. They're going to turn it around as if you did something. I mean, think about the Robert Morris situation with Cindy Clemenshire. She's 12 and the wife is telling her, oh, I forgive you for what you did. The child is 12. And that's why the laws are on the books where a child cannot consent. I've had people on my channel say, "Oh, it's the child's fault." You people just get off my channel. Don't even come on my channel, because just like Nate shared that with the atheist, the rulers of this world that are not biblical, they have enough sense to create that statute that they're children and they cannot consent. So, folks, again, I hope this blessed you. I have another interview tomorrow, and I hope that you tune in for that. So stay tuned. I'll see you soon.